I have a beauty of a movie to sell you on. It's You. If you watch this movie, you will forever be grateful. Not only is it a recent 4K I purchased, but it's a movie that not enough people have seen. This is the type of movie that you want as many people to watch as possible. It's interesting that some of the biggest names in acting, Kurt Russell, and in directors, Robert Zemeckis, teamed up to create one of the best comedies of all time, but still is nowhere near as well known as it should be. It not only exceeds on providing laughs, but manages to feature mostly unlikable characters who approach crazy situations nonchalantly, litter randomly, and generally go about their daily lives with their own set of rules. They're the type of characters who are not as evil as the antagonist, but have a flippant attitude towards breaking the law and freely lying for the sake of doing the ultimate right thing. Create people we can't help but like. That's the goal of the movie. The plot is multi-layered and well thought out. The narrative by itself holds the movie up and would work well in a thriller, but the script and directing perfectly balances the tone so that it keeps situations realistic enough and wacky enough to drive up the comedy without losing the audience. Things start off showing our lead character Rudy setting back the mileage on a used car to increase its value. He's a used car salesman who does shady things to get ahead in life, much like a politician. Luckily, Kurt Russell plays the character with complete charm and has enough positive moments that gives us a character to root for. The basis for the plot is that Rudy needs 10 grand in 6 weeks to buy a nomination for his upcoming Senate run. The owner of New Deal Used Cars, Luke, agrees to go on the bank in the morning and get Rudy the money.
No, we'll go down to the bank in the morning, all right? The only one thing is I don't think we ought to jam any football games, and I certainly don't want any strippers.
God damn, all right, Luke, I love you!
Rudy!
I'm on my way!
Luke's brother Roy, who owns the competing car dealership across the street, actually orders a mechanic to kill Luke in a crazy scene involving a test drive that ends in a stroke. Rudy has to hide the fact that Luke died in order to prevent Roy from taking over the business. They go even further with jamming a presidential address for a commercial involving damaging cars that are priced too high. All the while, Roy films his own commercials shaming New Deal used cars and eventually confronts Jeff, one of the loving side characters, in an epic fight scene that really shows that this movie can do stuff like a fight scene, a chase scene later on, comedic setups. Just it explores a wide variety of things and excels in all of them. I mean, not in very many movies does a fight scene between two characters, just them using their hands and them using whatever happens to be around them. It's very rarely very realistic, and this movie really hits the nail on the head. So Jeff, who is one of the most superstitious people in all of film, states early on that a rabbit foot is no protection against a red car, a setup that plays twice in the film. Another character, Jim the mechanic, has some standout scenes. The best is possibly when he tries to sell a car himself. Him being a mechanic and not a car salesman, he does his best. The story does take a twist when Luke's daughter, Barbara, comes to visit Luke after 10 years of not talking to him. Of course, Rudy has to scheme yet again, because that's what his life is, just one scheme after another, apparently. And obviously he cannot tell her that Luke is dead. Lenny and Squiggy play some important characters. Al Lewis even shows up in a very memorable role. And I can't mention characters unless I praise the dog Peanuts, who plays Toby. The dog plays an important role in the film as well, not only providing a lot of comedic moments, but even warns Jim at one point when Roy figures out where Luke is buried. The film wraps up its plots interestingly enough by wrapping up Rudy's senator plot with 30 minutes left in the movie. The secondary plot emerges to ultimately become the main plot of the movie, wraps up in the third act during an exciting 250-car race to the finish that is highlighted by one of the craziest stunts that I have ever seen in a movie.
That's a red car. I'm sorry, that's all.
It's close to 2 hours and never overstates its welcome at any moment. As far as my final thoughts go, not only is the acting and dialogue and situations funny, the action is funny. The interweaving plots unfold very naturally. It's like as if the plots don't have that much depth in favor of spending time with the characters and the crazy antics that they have going on. The movie world seems real, even though it's a bit fantastical in parts. It's a wild movie filled to the brim with memorable quotes and hilarious set pieces. The greatest aspect about Used Cars, though, is its ability to focus on being a hangout movie. You have fun while watching it. You like watching these characters in these wacky situations, and Used Cars delivers on all levels as it needs to do, which is why I rank it as one of the best, not only best comedies of all time, but one of the best films of all time, because it wants to do so many things on so many different levels and do them against how most movies would be going forth and set about trying to make these things happen to ultimately become a successful movie. Really, any movie that wants to be successful tries to have likable characters that a general audience can relate to, and even not a general audience can relate to, because not everyone has intentions that unlikable characters has. I mean, not every single person out there wants to litter randomly without a care in the world, and that's just peppered throughout the movie just to add a little bit of extra with these characters and how they go about with not so much of a care, but ultimately by the end you realize that they really do have a big care with how things go. I mean, you have Rudy doing some insane illegal things to protect the car lot, and yeah, ultimately he gets the idea to do these things and he follows through on these things that he's doing because he needs the money to be able to run for Senate. But he abandons that fairly early on, 3/4 into the movie, to do the right thing for Barbara, do the right thing for Luke. He knows the true intent of life is to get ahead, but ultimately it's to protect the ones that are trying to do really good in life as well. So if you have not seen this movie, I don't want to give away too much because that's part of the fun of watching it, but I felt that I had to give away at least a little bit, a touch of this and a touch of that in this review to really hopefully entice anyone who has not seen it to go out there and watch it as soon as possible. To briefly talk about the 4K transfer of the movie, this is one that I've owned on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray over the years, and it's a movie that had a lower budget. You can tell that it was probably had quick setups and shorter days, and probably had a small schedule to shoot on. So it's never going to look pristine, but I will say that the 4K to me is very well worth it. For anyone who likes just to sit back and have a great time, you will enjoy Used Cars.